June 12th, 2024. Well, I have to admit I was wrong. Hunter Biden was actually convicted on all three counts, which I think is kind of an amazing outcome in a way, but I guess the system works. One thing is this was a very straightforward case. The only issue in the case at all was would the jury nullify because it was a Biden, and maybe Biden isn't as beloved in his home area as everybody thought he was, huh? Or maybe just the fact that they couldn't see how to argue with themselves to do anything other than to convict. I mean, it was a straightforward case. He was clearly guilty. The laptop proved it, and the idea that these defenses they were putting up were obviously really false. I mean, like the law itself would be nullified if a person who was using drugs just wasn't on drugs at the time they signed the document, obviously. And besides that, one of the charges, just simply possessing it while using, which he clearly was doing, would get him convicted. I always throw out these ridiculous things by adding up the maximum sentences and assuming they'll be served consecutively, which won't happen at all. He might get a year, maybe. I think something like that. I doubt they're going to go more than that. And of course, the judge could be a little ticked off because of all the antics around this trial. So the Justice Department was embarrassed because they tried to let him off completely off the hook, and the judge threw it out. So they had to actually go ahead and prosecute him. So, oh well. But anyway, that's not the main thing here. I will say that they'll try to make some kind of comparison to the situation with Trump and the fact that Trump is not accepting the verdict as legitimate, whereas I guess the Bidens are so far. At any rate, he said he isn't going to pardon him, and he's not going to pardon him before the election, or I guess if the plot to get Biden to drop out of the race occurs, he might pardon him even before the election. But at any rate, he's got another trial to go, and I think they'll wait for that before they do anything. So, at any rate, so that's that. But we'll get to another topic here, which is the main topic of this video, which is this executive order that was signed about a week ago here. The week has gone by, so are they going to shut the border down or not? I mean, I've seen some things on the news like, well, the executive order didn't do any good, that they're still coming in at a high rate. And the point is, it will turn out that they will be somewhere in the range of well over the target of 2,500 averaged over a 7-day period. I think either by today or tomorrow. I don't know exactly when the 7-day period began. According to his executive order, the border should be then shut down and they should stop letting these people in. So that's not what we've been hearing on TV is what we really ought to be focused on. Is he going to actually enforce the order that he gave a week ago or not? By the way, if you like these videos, please give me a like. We're always looking for more subscriptions. And of course, those that counted this on some of the social media posts that haven't already subscribed but are on Rumble instead of YouTube as a regular member, then you can subscribe to me there. So, at any rate, so that's kind of the way I see this situation. The real issue that the pressure ought to be now on Biden to actually implement his executive order, and I haven't heard anything about it. I mean, we have had the farce today of him after his son was convicted of a gun charge, speaking at an anti-gun rights meeting, advocating more gun control laws, like the one his son has just been convicted of breaking. But I don't know. I've heard nothing about what he's going to do about his executive order on the border. So that's where I think the pressure needs to be on Biden, and we'll see what he does. Of course, even if he doesn't enforce it, they still have these people that are getting on this app and being flown into the country, and of course the children, the unaccompanied minors that come in will be allowed in and put in the hands of who? Probably child molesters and pedophile rings. I mean, in fact, that's the group that probably should be most kept out of the country so that you don't encourage more people to send abandoned children into the country like that. I mean, this is another one of the outrages of this whole border situation. And I just have to say that But we'll see what happens on that. I think that this is the correct time to put some pressure on him, because I mean, he's actually signed an executive order which says he'll do something, but will he? And I'm not sure. I think that I know that they canceled the press conference today, so maybe they haven't decided yet what they're going to do. And that was probably more of the conviction, I suspect, than it was over anything else. So anyhow, on other fronts, I've heard that this attorney general in New Jersey is trying to take away the liquor license of some Trump, I think, golf clubs and stuff in that state. But Trump is saying that he doesn't hold a liquor license. I guess the club does, but not him personally. We'll see how that's another one of those Democrat stunts that you run into. We'll see how that plays out. And we'll sort of, it's kind of the way it goes in all this situation. And we'll have to keep in touch with it. One thing that's notable is that, in the wake of the Trump trial and convictions in New York, we now have polling data in. After that, it doesn't look like that's had any noticeable effect at all. Like the real clear average even ticked up a little bit, a fraction of a percent. But I mean, that's just kind of like which poll falls in and out of the average at that point. So basically, no real effect at all, apparently, so far. And of course, you have the normal things at the D-Day speech that, of course, Biden made, which was really kind of a pale comparison to the Reagan one, which he's trying to model it after. But I think that they're continuing to try to take some comment attributed to Trump, was made back when he made a speech at the I guess it would be the 75th anniversary, and he basically. I think that's taken out of context in reality. I mean, yeah, I think he was expressing some amazement of the sacrifice that people had made, and kind of wondered, well, why do people do this? And of course, that's always a question that people raise. But of course, it's a mixture of patriotism, social pressure, lack of what else you're going to do. I mean, why do the Russians volunteer to fight in Ukraine? I mean, but they do. But they're trying to hold that against Trump. But I mean, after all, Biden didn't serve either. So, in fact, very few of these top-level politicians today have served in the military. So I don't see any real valid criticism there, exactly. And when somebody did serve, let's say in the National Guard, like George W. Bush, then they try to ridicule that service or whatever. And of course, at any rate, I don't want to spend too much on that, but I've seen that they were trying to float that bugaboo again, so there it is. But I think for the moment, Trump is still doing what he's doing. We'll have to see what happens, of course, on the cases before the Supreme Court here. As we're nearing the end of the court session, which usually ends right at the end of June or very early July. Whether they'll rule on the presidential immunity case at that time, or another option, I still raise the possibility that they just won't rule at all at this time. We'll just continue to debate it. After all, it's a profound question and it doesn't have an easy answer. So maybe they need to deliberate a little bit more, like, I don't know, into November the 5th, perhaps, before they come up with a ruling on that. And there's another thing that they are going to rule on, which is the use of this law that was meant for financial crimes. I think it was. Does it apply to other issues, which is part of the charges that have been used against some of the people in January the 6th, and also the Trump and the D.C. trial. It's currently on hold. So we'll see, what happens on that. That one probably will have a ruling, I think, before the end of this session. But whether the big presidential immunity will have, I don't know. And another question is, will Trump try to go ahead and follow Mark Levin's suggestion of appealing directly to the Supreme Court on the New York case or not? And so, for the Supreme Court's getting a lot more into these political cases, I'm sure, than they would really want to. But we'll have to stay tuned in. Those are things to look for in the days ahead. So anyway, I'll wrap this up for now. This video just kind of covers a lot of these topics, but I'm particularly focused on what actually happens with this Biden executive order on closing the border, because he stuck his neck out on that one. So we'll see what happens. I'll be posting this, of course, on both YouTube and Rumble, and of course, the addresses of my social media accounts are in the description below. And by the way, if you haven't looked at my last video on the issue of striking Russia, whether it's basically a good path to success or disaster, it hasn't got as many looks as some of them do, and I think it's a really good video for people to take a look at. So if you haven't subscribed, you can subscribe and take a look at that one. I think I've covered a lot of good, interesting information about the subject. So all for now.